Yeah, so let me briefly introduce this panel and welcome to this panel called China's Internet Governance and Data-Driven Initiatives. So my name is Jun Liu. I'm a social professor from the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. So we have very exciting panel that consists of interdisciplinary scholar, but as I say, also like transcontinental scholars, because Marianne and Zizheng actually is located currently in Germany and UK. So we want to address some of the most prominent challenges and opportunities in the discussion on China's digital governance and data-driven initiative, ranging from handling disinformation and fake news, the oversee perception of initiative like the social credit system, to managing the online public agenda of Chinese social media. So we will start with the presentation by Marianne von Blomberg and Chuncheng Liu. So Marianne is a research fellow and PhD candidate at the chair of Chinese legal culture at Zhejiang University Law School and a research associate at Bern University of Applied Science economics faculty. So she is pro regularity revolution, in particular assessment-based public regulation and government-related standardization in China, while Chuncheng is a postdoc researcher at Microsoft Research New England Social Media Collective, and he will be an assistant professor of communication study and sociology at Northeast University. So we have a 12 minutes presentation. The floor is yours, Marianne.
Thank you very much, Jun, for the kind introduction. I'm going to set my timer now, so I won't miss the deadline. Yeah, I want to open this presentation with a few very wise quotes from the US public media discourse. As you see up there already in The Wire, titled in 2017, in China, a 3-digit score could dictate your place in society. Former US Vice President Mike Pence said, China's rulers aim to implement an orwellian system premised on controlling virtually every facet of human life. And by this time, you probably have already guessed that these quotes are all about China's social credit system. The best one, I think, is still the New York Post, which claims that those with low social credit scores in China are preemptively arrested and sent to re-education camps. Yeah, as some of you know, Chuncheng Liu, my co-author, who cannot make it today, and I both wrote or writing our dissertations about the social credit system in China. So over years and until today, we are constantly confronted with these most absurd ideas of what the social credit system project is. There is this idea of the one score, the emphasis on individuals as targets, the idea of this nationwide network of cameras at every crosswalk that catches jaywalkers. And it was really funny until we realized that these stories are so firmly part of the public discourse that they actually have become resistant to any fact-based corrections, and worse, inform very real policymaking in both the EU and in the US. So while all these stories have a grain of truth to them, there's also a cosmos of science fiction around them. We argue in this paper that what we see in the US media is a form of techno-orientalism. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of Orientalism. Edward Said coined it in his book in 1978. It's the phenomenon in Western media, science, popular culture, and politics to cast the East as a mythical, pre-modern place far away, which is diametrically opposed to the West. So to say, a systemic other. And in addition to Said's rendition of Orientalism, other slightly different forms of Orientalism have been identified since then. So Daniel Vukovic, for example, in 2012, analyzed that actually in the China studies discourse, there is something he calls sinological Orientalism. So he says that since reform and opening, China has been increasingly presented as on the very same road as the West, just not as far yet. but it is becoming, just like the West, gradually moving closer to the inevitable ultimate state, which is a liberal democratic capitalist system. This is Orientalism too, because it again does not allow space for a unique Chinese path. So the West in this story is still the center of everything. And unexpectedly, longer than expected, China's own capitalist but still not liberal system persists and still moving forward. And that defied a lot of mainstream political and economic theories. So in this course, we argue a new strand of China-directed Orientalism comes to the fore, in which tropes of technology play a central role. So this new type of techno-Orientalism asserts the old difference between Western and the Chinese political systems and explain the unanticipated survival of the Chinese political system in global capitalism with a supposedly unbridled application of information technology and governance. So this new form of Orientalism no longer assumes, so to say, a becoming sameness of China and the Western countries, but instead asserts that the systemic other can persist thanks to new technological possibilities. However, instead of casting the Orient as backward and thus without influence on Western ways of life, this third strand of Orientalism, Techno-Orientalism, underlines the capability of China's system and how it poses a real threat. So the SES discourse at hand is that we analyze the SES social credit system debate in the US media, that we analyze as one manifestation of this third strand of Orientalism. Yeah, this is basically the bigger argument. So the point we try to make is that Techno-Orientalism, which is so far currently only observed in fiction work. So this term is not something that we invented, has been put forward long ago by Kosnick and even before that, but it has only been observed in fiction. So we argue that it is actually not limited to the field of fiction, but it also exists in fact-based media reporting. So what we're doing is an empirical investigation into how the social credit system in China is imagined, constructed, and deployed in the West. This has not been done before. And we're interested particularly in what context it is referred to, by which actors, accompanied by what kind of references and metaphors. How exactly is it depicted, and what functions do these depictions fulfill in the discourse? So we conducted a mixed method study based on 331 SES-related articles. SES here always stands for Social Credit System. Actually, we have a few more meanwhile. So media articles published in the United States by mainstream media across all, like media from all political directions, basically. The Times frame is 2002, when the social credit system as such was first mentioned in China, until 2022. We have a first data set that we held through a keyword search in Factiva. So these are like basic mainstream US media outlets. And we are now compiling a second data set of articles which are concerned with not so mainstream US media outlets, so like local newspapers and so on. And we do that by using Google Alerts function, the Google Alerts function, and setting it to social credit system to gather more articles. We then conduct topic analysis, coded them all manually. So we finished the first 331 round of articles for coding, and we hope to use framing analysis, which is still something, as I said, the paper is really in its infancy, and we're still working on that. So that is an idea that we want to follow up on. But if you have any ideas and thoughts on how to bring this forward methodologically, or like any theoretical ideas, anything that come to your mind, we're very happy to be inspired, because this, we feel like it's something that has to come out there, that has to be out there, because it's so in your face, but it's still not done. So we're working on this on the side, both of us. So, but let's get to the substantive part. Here are some of the patterns that we found in the US, in the articles of the media debate. First, a very significant pattern that keeps reoccurring is casting the social credit system as the Communist Party's latest tool for total control. In such articles, the idea is it's made very strong that the Communist Party in China leads pretty much everything. Chinese citizens have nothing to say whatsoever. They're either victims or indoctrinated supporters of the system. Information technology is cast as the enabler of everything, which is interesting because all of these, of course, most of the social credit projects are very, very low tech, but this is the way it is presented. It is presented as a uniquely Chinese phenomenon, very far away and unthinkable in Western countries. Not going to read you the quotes for time reasons, but yeah. Second big pattern we found is that the social credit system is cast as a threat to the global order. It is often like handled as, so to say, an authoritarian fix, which makes up for the lack of democratic structures, which are, according to conventional Western theories, considered crucial for market economies to work. So instead of democratic structure, we have the social credit system, and that's where the Chinese economic system works, basically. So that is the story. And then, of course, there's a lot of stories about the fear of China's social credit system being exported, about other authoritarian regimes picking that idea up and implementing something like that. Thirdly, the social credit system is cast as surveillance technology. That is a very interesting move that happens later on in the discourse, when so the social credit system itself has been described so often that now we see articles that just mention the word but do not longer explain it and say really what it actually is all about. But they use the term social credit score, social credit system, to mark some dystopian state surveillance. For example, this has been really big in the US debate when it came to the whole cancel culture thing. So a lot of Republican outlets, conservative outlets, use the reference of the social credit system to point out that what the Democrats are doing is cancel culture. Also in the context of COVID controls, this has become big, like all sorts of pandemic restrictions were cast as, oh, this is a kind of social credit control. It's like in China, blah, blah, blah. So this is where we find this a lot. Then fourth, a little pattern that we found interesting, or there's something we have to go deeper into, is that stories on the social credit system in China rarely cite any Chinese sources, neither Chinese citizens, nor Chinese academics, nor Chinese politicians or anybody else. So yeah, to get to the end in time, hopefully, instead of drawing a conclusion here, which we really can't do yet, I just want to put up a few questions and thoughts for you that maybe you could help us with. This picture, by the way, is something we also found in the media debate. So first of all, framing analysis. Are you familiar with that method? We both are kind of like getting into it and trying to work with it. It is a huge, it's been used across a lot of disciplines, and we are still like trying to deal with it. Oh, something's missing here. Never mind, I forgot that. How to deal with the fact-fiction divide. Now we just present what is presented in the US media, but we don't really do any sort of like, we could probably lay bare a lot of things that are untrue about what is being stated, but we don't know what the value of that would be for such a study. If we just want to describe techno-orientalism, like the debate itself, the imaginary itself, where does it become important to also note or to also state where these imaginaries are not true, are not where there's no factual basis for it? Is that important? Is that not important? Yeah. And then we have a code that we're not sure how to use. We coded isms, so we basically figured out we searched for authoritarianism, socialism, Confucianism, liberalism, all these terms in the articles, and we basically wrote them down, and we feel like that's an important one. We don't really know where to bring this and what to do with it. So I'm going to leave you with these open questions instead of a conclusion, and looking forward to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Xue, for another promising presentation. So we have our third presenter who will join us online, and it will be Zizheng Yu and Shujun Liu. I think Zizheng currently is a lecturer in promotional media and program director of the MA in social media and digital marketing in the Department of Communication, Drama, and Films at the University of Exeter. And Zizheng's current research focuses on consumer activism, nationalism, AI algorithmic resistance, promotional media, social media platforms like TikTok, Douyin, media activism, and digital media practices. Okay, so Zizheng, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me just share my screen first. Oh, hi everyone. So I'm really sorry that I can't attend the meeting in person, but I'm still really happy to be here to share our early stage project. And it's around 1:30 a.m. in the UK now, so please forgive me if I say anything wrong. About this project, let me just begin with one of my previous research on consumer activism. So as far as I know, short video-based social media platforms like Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, actually have demonstrated effectiveness in initiating various collective activism practices and have become a real-time updated database of various repertoire of contention for Chinese consumers. And concurrently, the proliferation of fake news on these platforms significantly amplifies the facilitation of consumer nationalist activities in different domains. So our research aims to advance the understanding of consumer nationalism through an analysis of a Chinese boycott of Japanese goods, especially the food imported from Japan. So in August 2023, Chinese social media users were calling for boycotts of a range of Japanese products, ranging from luxury skincare creams and everyday household goods. So this collective action was prompted by the Japanese government's decision to release treated wastewater from the crippled Fukushima nuclear power plant into the sea. So by drawing lessons from Chadwick's method of studying the political information cycle, so our research aimed to explore the complex role played by fake news on different social media platforms and its consequential impact on mainstream media coverages and also the content generated by influencers. So regarding consumer nationalism, so many scholars have revealed and summarized its concept from different angles and also in different contexts. For example, in the definition made by Carl Gerth, consumer nationalism refers to an effort to define buying and using as applicable statement through the long consumption of things from an offending country or countries, and the consumption of one's own nationally produced goods and services. So in our research, we intend to offer an extensive historical analysis of consumer nationalism in China, beginning with one of the earliest and also most significant consumer activist movements in modern Chinese history, which is the voluntary boycott of American goods in May 1905. So currently, you can see that nationalist sentiment on different short video-based social media platforms, especially those mis and false information, is fueling anger among Chinese consumers. And our research plans to document this hybrid dynamics of fake news among mainstream media, influencers, and also commercial entities. So seeking to understand its impact on consumers' nationalist activities. And also at the same time, our research also wants to explore from the perspective of short videos and also fake news to see why short videos can play a role in spreading rumors to a certain extent in the case of the Chinese boycott of Japanese goods. So drawing lesson from one of my previous research, as I mentioned, so Chinese consumers nowadays are actually turning the SVB platforms, those short video-based social media platforms like Douyin, to a weapon to protect themselves, as traditional channels like consumer associations and also legal protection are actually unable to effectively protect consumers' rights and interests. So with the features of eye-catching, audio-visual, and convincing low threshold, short videos involved could serve actually as a hard evidence, clearly showcasing the experiences of consumers to the mainstream media, relevant government departments, and the general public, and gaining their attention and support. So while short videos and these platforms can be viewed as a really influential tools for consumers to safeguard themselves, it is also important to acknowledge that they may also contribute to spreading rumors to some extent. And scholars like Liu and Qi, they have already found that rumors containing videos are actually more engaging and impactful than plain text rumors, so as they convey more meaning and emotions. So these short videos can also play a significant role in spreading rumors to some extent. And also, additionally, you can see the Chinese people's long-standing concerns about food safety may also further lead to the spread of this short video content, such as boycotting Japanese seafood, which is also, I think, worth of further study in our research. So next, here I'm going to show you one short video case related to our study on boycotting Japanese products. So as you have seen, this short video actually was posted by a Douyin account named 跨境供应链协会 Cross-Border Supply Chain Association on August 24th, just after Japan announced the start of releasing the Fukushima nuclear wastewater. So this short video titled "Two Fish Died Off in a Week," and large numbers of dead fish appeared in Japanese port, spreading about a kilometer. So you can see the video featured numerous dead fish with hashtags such as nuclear wastewater discharge and disaster, and also like hashtag can fish from nuclear wastewater be eaten. And also this video was accompanied by a fear-inducing background music. But however, you can see that actually this video have been circulating on different platforms since February 2023, so before Japan's decision to release nuclear wastewater. And also it was first posted by a Weibo user, a really famous Weibo user named Zizheng, on February 7th, around 6 months ago before this case. So the footage actually had nothing to do with Fukushima nuclear wastewater. And on August 24th, the number of short video contents related to Japan's discharge of nuclear wastewater actually continue to increase, and also the number of rumors among them also continue to rise on these platforms, and mainly produced by mainstream media and also V media in China, and resulting in a growing attention to the topic of increasing public interest. So as a result, the Japanese government's decision led to an instant chain of reaction of online and also offline boycotts targeting Japanese business across different social media platforms in China. So, for example, according to our observation, on the day Japanese government decided to discharge nuclear wastewater, a beauty blogger named Zhong Xinxin posted a video stating that she reveals any advertising cooperation with Japanese-related brands, and her statement received support from many of her fans. And one user even commented, starting from August 24th, 2023, I refuse to buy all products of Japanese origin and boycott all celebrities who endorse Japanese products, restaurants with ingredients of Japanese origin, and I will firmly support national policies and upgrade my actions in the future. So our research, so you can see these are the research questions that we aim to answer in our research. So I won't read it here because of time. So again, as mentioned earlier, so by drawing the approach of Chadwick to study the political information cycle, and also the approach adopted in my previous research to describe the hybrid media dynamics of consumer video activism in China, and also trying to combining them with the literature on short video rumors and also consumer nationalism. So our research aimed to explore the hybrid interaction of rumors, especially short video rumors between mainstream media, influencers, and commercial entities to understand the impact on consumer nationalist behaviors. And in this case study, so we plan to adopt two methods. The first one is a online close observations to trying to illustrate the interrelationship between short video rumors and consumer nationalism in China. So we will pay attention to two groups of media on these different SVB platforms, so which are news, professional, older, and also the second group, non-innate and newer media, so defined by Chadwick. So you can see the new professional and older media refers to those Chinese mainstream media directly managed by the government, such as newspapers, television broadcasting stations, and news sites. And also the non-innate and also newer media refers to those media based on different social media platforms. So we argue that these different media logics combine to construct a new hybrid information cycle that is now an important part of Chinese fake-induced consumer nationalism. And the second method, we will combine a data set that contains short videos in different platforms, which include news coverages in mainstream media, government departments' responses, and other relevant online content describing the selected case. So as I said, so this research is actually in its very early stage. So we just started collecting our data. Once again, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions or are interested in our project, please feel free to contact us. Thank you.
So I'm going to present the last presentation with Shouhui, who is a newly graduate student from the University of Copenhagen. He's unable to join us, not just because of the time differences, but also because he's going to defend the thesis actually today. Yeah, sure. Okay. Let me set up the time. Yeah. So as I say, I'm an associate professor from the Department of Communication at the University of Copenhagen, and this is part of my research project that I'm leading now, a 4-year research project from the Danish Research Council that investigate political contention and digital media globally. So as you can see here, the basic idea in this research is that we want to introduce time series analysis method along with the others to interrogate and also to model, you could say, the dynamics of online discussion as a process on Weibo by different groups of social media users. And we focus on the shift in the themes or topics of different discussion over time, as well as the influence among different group of social media users. Okay, so we start with what we know well and know less about online discussion or online sphere in China. So what we know well is that the Chinese internet is a contested spheres. We all know that online discussion are shaped by contested voices, topics, and perspectives with multiple forms of and values, content moderation, censorship, and circumvention, and opinion manipulation. But I think we know less in this case. We believe is how these voices, perspectives, topics may change over time, and how they are influenced by which kind of elements. So that's why I think we believe that it's relevant not just to look at this contested online discussion, but also try to understand how they unfold over time in this case. So we believe especially there are two pitfalls here, you could say. So one is there is a kind of assumption of a linear relationship, or you could say a linearity assumption of variability. So they believe that we have a straight line relationship between two variables. In this case, we have official, we have unofficial, we have official, we have counter-official. And the other thing is what we call the temporal stability of these effects. So there's this kind of assumption that in the context of online discussion, the effect of certain discussions, events, or action is uniform over time. It did not change in this case. But if you look at especially emerging study using time series analysis, for example, Wales research, they actually argue that they have this phrase called not all time is created equal. So that means that the impact or significance of events and process can vary over different periods of time. So that implies that temporal factors play a crucial role in shaping the outcome in this case. So that's why we're interested in this case from a temporal perspective, saying who is or who are shaping the political discussion agenda in Chinese social media, during which time period, and with what kind of effect in this case. So what we would like to contribute in this case, we believe is one of first started to map out, you could say, the changing trajectory of contested public discussion online over time in this case. And empirically, we want to illustrate how different actors not only shape the political discussion and agenda, but they are also influencing each other and including themselves discussion. You could say in unexpected way that I'm going to show you briefly later at different time periods. And then methodologically, we introduce time series analysis to study this temporal dimension of Chinese social media. We believe that there are extensively study about the topic dimension in this case. And theoretically, we say we try to conceptualize, you could say, these contested digital spheres as a dynamic process. So it's not uniform, as I say, throughout all time series, you could say. So basically, briefly talk about this workflow. So we take online activism in this Hong Huang Lang, this red, yellow, blue kindergarten scandal as a case study. So that involves multiple allegations of child abuse at red, yellow, blue kindergarten in Beijing, with photos of children with needle marks reported by their parents, going viral on the internet on November 22nd, 2017. And then I'm not going to the detail of the case. And then we have the database from one of our earlier paper, and we follow this 4-step of analysis. So the first one, we start with unsupervised machine learning, or in this case, topic modeling, specifically to clustering word groups and similar expression that best characterize online discussion on the scandal. And that leads to 20 topics. And then we manually read and categorize themes, frames, agenda. So we're actually following the same framework as Marianne actually mentioned in this case. That gives us 8 things in this case. And then we compute different analysis to explore, you could say, the contested dynamic online discussion, including correlation coefficients of the alignments of themes, tensions between different social media users, and themes attention distribution across 5 types of social media users. That's verified government account, verify media account, verify other organizational account, and social media influencer, that's usually verify individual account and then unverified individual account. In some cases, you could say that's a common user in this case. So I'm going to present some preliminary findings in this case. The first question is, how do different types of user engage in the discussion over time? As I say, the over time dimension is relevant. So this image basically shows the proportion of discussions on Weibo contributed by different user type over a period of about 10 days in this case. So the x-axis represent time, so 1 unit equals 6 hours. And then the y-axis, that's the proportion of discussion contributed by different types of user in this case. And you could say that over the period observed, there is a general, you could say, trend of fluctuation in the proportion contributed by different user type. And what you could also see that is the dominance of unverified individual users. So they are the largest contributors to the discussion, the most active group, and they maintain a very high and consistent presence throughout the period. And then the second type, which is the gray, light gray part, to see here, is the influence of verified individual user in this case. And then what you could also see is a kind of minimal kind of engagement from verified account, including verified government, media, and other organizational account. So they have a much small impact, you could say, on the overall discussion proportion in this case. And you could also see similar if you look at the topic-wise distribution, and you can actually see a similar thing that actually there's high engagement of different type of user, especially theme 1, that's official generic themes, and then the theme 7, which is unofficial issue specific frame, that's about rumor in this case. So these are two topics that attracts most intensive discussion in this case. And then the next one actually is about Weibo as a contested sphere. We say if we could observe a changing trajectory of public discussion online over time. And again, this is an image of, you could say, line graph showing this discussion proportion of theme 7. So that's a rumor in this case among 5 types of user over time. And the x-axis represent time series again, and the y-axis represent the proportion of discussion focused on theme 7. That's a rumor for each types of user in this case. So what you could also see that's interesting is that like the theme 7 is a dynamic topic with varying levels of engagement across different types of user. And especially, we try to summarize one of the things is fluctuating engagement. That means all user types actually exhibit fluctuation in their engagement with this rumor topic. But at the same time, you could also see that actually verified government account and verify other organizational account, this shows most dramatic peak in this case. So that's, I'm sorry about the tiny word. So that's verified government account and then also verify other organizational accounts. They actually change more dramatically in this case. And the other thing is what we call this continuous and sporadic discussion in this case. So that means what we could see is that the influencer, the verified individual user and unverified individual account, they tend to have more continuous but fluctuating participation about rumor, whereas what we could see is verified accounts, that's government, media, other organization has more, you could say, sporadic, but sometimes highly concentrated discussion in this case. And we talk about the contention. So what we can see is, for example, at this specific time moment, what we can see is all 5 type of users are engaging into the discussion on rumor, right? So that's a contestation. But at this time point, what we could see is there's only involvement from the verified and unverified individual account. There's no involvement from the verified government, verified media, and other organizational accounts. So that means actually contention is not always a uniform format in this case. And then we further carry out what you could call this, sorry, in-plus response function of the VAR model. In this case, basically we want to understand how the change from one type of user introduce the change from the other types of user in this case. And the image in black and white, so there's no significant inference, and only look at the colorful one. Again, I apologize because that's very small in this case. So this again is the theme on rumor. So what we could see, the first thing is that actually there's a strong self-inference in this case. So you can see basically what I identify the inference is we have an in-plus from government, we have response from government social media account, we have in-plus from media, we have response from the media account. They are all significant. So that basically means all type of social media user significantly influence their own future activities in this case. So that's a strong self-inference. And the second thing is there's a limit, or even you could say negligible inference from government account, or even blackfire effect on media account from individual social media user. So I believe that actually Xue has already talked about rumor refuting, and we're also interested about, I think, how did the public respond to rumor. But I think in this case, what we see is that discussion actually has very limited or even opposite influence from the media account. So for example, discussion from the media account about rumor actually increase unverified individual users' attention to the rumor. So while the response from the media account themselves show a decreasing trend in this case. So that is the case where you could say we have the in-plus from the media, but then the response from the common user is increasing in this case. While if you look at the discussion, if you look at the VR models, the last thing then you can see actually there's a decreased trend about the rumor discussion. So that's what we call the blackfire effect. And then the last thing is that actually individual social media user, they are not able to influence organization users' discussion. And that also shows a similar trend when organizational user has such kind of influence on individual users. So that means actually basically what we call is a separate discussion sphere where the organization user basically, or the verified organizational user, they have their influence on the three types of organizational user, while the unverified individual user has an influence on verified individual user themselves, but they are less influence from organizational user. So okay, so to conclude, what we call is the first thing, we try to map out this trajectory of public discussion over time, and what we show is there's no specific social media actor dominant the process of public discussion. We also model this bi-directional. So there's no like unidirectional, there's no specific user that exert influence on all type of user, but we can see interdependence between different type of user. And then we also show what we call the following three characters. So this, the first thing is fluctuating contention. So different user, they are not always involved into contestation, as you show that. The second thing is that the fragment spheres, so that means the government, other organization user, and individual user, they have very little influence on each other's agenda. And the last thing is that you could see, as you could say, ineffective public opinion guidance, because verified government user, they only have the influence on their own discussion, but they almost have no effect on verified, unverified individual user. Thank you. So we have about 3 minutes, yeah, for very quick comment and questions to all the panelists in this panel. But of course, we can continue the discussion after the panel finished.
I got a question. So for your data section from Weibo, how do you do that?
Sorry.
Sorry, for collecting data from Weibo, how did you do that?
We use the data from the third party.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
There's a company. Yeah, it's a commercial company.
Is it very expensive?
No, I don't think it's very expensive. Because I think the data comes from the article by Nian Liu, who is in Beijing, and myself. Yeah, I think the data actually comes from the third party that she was working with.
Okay, great.
Hi, I have a question for Marianne. Hello, Marianne. Good to see you online. I'm Haiqing. Good to see this paper that you and Chuncheng have co-authored, and I look forward to the final version. But just wanted to provoke the questions that you ask at the end after having identified the 3 different patterns of so-called misrepresentation or misconception of social credit system and China. So how to deal with the fact-fiction divide? And that's actually the problem that we all face. Doesn't matter how much effort we as academics try to present a more balanced view about the social credit system. It seems that the American-dominated think tanks and the media have already set the agenda. So I'm sure you have given much thought about it. I'd just like to see if you can give some tentative answers to the question that you asked. Thanks.
That's very mean of you, Haiqing.
I'll have to be.
No, it's a very good point. The thing is, that I think if we would do a strictly like framing analysis and strictly just discuss how the debate constitutes techno-orientalism, I think we would not probably, from what I think now, we would not have to go into in how far these ideas are also true. I don't know in how far it's important to make the point to prove that a lot of these patterns or a lot of these descriptions are just not fact-based in order to establish the point that there is this imaginary. So yeah, again, I'm not sure right now. I think it's probably not so important, but of course, Chuncheng and I are in a position that we could probably do that because we both have published substantial work on the social credit system. So both are, so to say, persons who can tell fact from fiction in this case. And it would be probably useful to play on that. Yeah, so it's still open, I guess. May I also, there's other questions in the room, right? Otherwise I have one.
I'm just going to throw a question back to Marianne, and happy to follow up on email if it takes too much time. I mean, I guess one question to you is basically, do you see this as an exercise in debunking? Do you see it as an exercise in reflecting on Orientalism, or do you see it as an exercise in how a real story of China turns into disinfo and even memification with the memes that you showed at the end, which I absolutely love talking about. Personally, I would say that there is no real need for debunking because 1, you're not gonna change a thing anymore in that regard, and 2, it's already been done. So, I mean, you will need to sketch the outlines no matter what, but I would be careful of turning this into another debunking story because in the end, then you're just gonna end up adding very little. Perhaps quickly, are there, like, if you do decide to turn it into kind of a kind of story about disinfo, are there any frameworks related to kind of media communications about how these kinds of story can spread? I mean, I used the story of Chinese whispers. Is there something in that kind of direction that you could use as a theoretical framework to introduce this to also an audience that is interested in it from a communications perspective? Happy to follow up by email if this is too much.
Yeah, really interesting. Of course, yes, we do not want to use this article to debunk myths. This has been done, and this has been done by you first and foremost. I guess that was Vincent speaking. I can see him. Yeah, so no need for that. And that's not the idea. The idea is like we're curious about the function. Why do these stories persist in spite of so many debunking efforts that have been going on? And especially people who like we can really follow up on like journalists who have heard and have learned about how things actually work. They still write these same stories. They're like what is it called, uneducatable, so to say, and which very strongly signals that these stories have a function within the US media debate. And the social credit system notion has a function of its own. It's becoming independent of what is actually happening in China. So it's been used to describe, to counter COVID restrictions. It's been used to argue against cancel culture. It's been used in all sorts of contexts now, and like this is what we're interested in. So, and as to the framework thing, we are trying now to use this techno-orientalism framework basically because we think it's very, very helpful. It really brings everything to the point from what we've read so far about techno-orientalism. But of course, we still have to base that. So we were trying to build a frame, as Jun Liu also used the same basically. We're trying to build a generic frame using techno-orientalism, and then basically using that frame to explain what is going on and how. The interesting thing is, though, that social credit, of course, at some point is not only framed, but becomes the frame, right? When we get to the point where it's been used as a meme to refer to describe all sorts of other issues, we kind of like framing analysis is like imploding, so to say. If you really want to follow up on social credit system and how the term is used, it's kind of like, yeah, it's becoming a framing device, so to say. And that's a complex twist that we still have to deal with. Yeah. You know what I mean.
Does someone have a question?
Yeah. Good. Yeah, thanks everyone for the great presentations. I guess just following up on the debunking, the problem of debunking. I think, a lot of the misinformation, disinformation assumes that people are very rational, right? That we just need more facts to make sense of everything, or that we're ethical and always want to do the right thing online. But I would kind of suggest like humans, right? The fact that hoaxes and rumors and things spread is because we really enjoy them. And we're not rational, we're often intuitive, we click quickly, we skim things, we make emotional rather than rational decisions. Yeah, so I guess like a question across a lot of the papers is like, what actually is the problem with misinformation? If it's already out there and it's already done its damage and it's already part of society rather than something done to like poor passive little users, it's something that's intrinsic to the human nature. So yeah, do we need to fix it?
Really good point. To me or to everyone or to
everybody? Well, the misinfo paper specifically I was thinking of. So 2, 3, the second and third, I guess, or
yeah.
I think the problem still need to be addressed because the consequence could be very serious. Like if I just recently I encountered a misinformation video on Douyin, which is a Chinese version of TikTok. There is one unverified user posting that he has access to a treatment for a late-stage cancer. So for late-stage cancer patients, they are so desperate that if you give him or her any hope, he will just do not hesitate to try, right? So when you are so desperate, if you trust this misinformation and really spend a lot of money for not useful treatment, that consequence is serious. And also the deep fake I just showed of the Hong Kong chief executive Li Jiachao, then if you trust that video, you really invest in that the so-called financial product, you will have huge financial loss. So these are just two examples of the bad consequence, serious consequence of the misinformation and disinformation. So in my point, or in all, is still a problem which should be addressed. Although you are right that one of the motivation for people to spread misinformation is just for entertainment. And some people may think that I have I have to encounter so much information every day. Why should I bother to really verify it before click the share button, right? I don't care about it, but I still think that everybody should play their part to really treat this serious. If you don't trust it, but you still choose to share it, people who receive the information you share may trust it and have like bad consequence just because of you share the information to people. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone. I think probably another question we could probably think about following this morning's keynote discussion, in this case about the disinformation, misinformation, rumor. I'm sort of thinking about will be actually who has the power to define which piece of information as disinformation, misinformation.